I got this a few months ago in a Sephora haul that I did with my sister. And I've gotten to play around with it a little bit and kind of get used to the shadows and how they interact with each other. There has been some controversy with Kat Von D that I've only learned about since then, so I'll probably be rethinking purchasing any more of her products before I can, if I'll have to decide and do a little bit more research on what's going on with her and her brand and her company before I purchase any more of her products. So this is the front of the palette. On the back it has the shades. There's nothing on the inside that says the name. And when you open it up, you get a nice full-size mirror. Oops. Full-size mirror and 6 pans in there. The ones on the top are obviously the highlighters. This one is more like a cool kind of peach tone, but without the underlying orange. Like this one is more of a peach tone, I would say. And then this middle one is just pretty much straight up pale yellow. And this bottom one down here is kind of like a taupe color. It's a nice cool tone, but it's not too warm or dark, so that'll be a good one for me and anyone who shares my kind of skin tone. This middle one is a warmer brown, but it's still a medium tone. And then this one on the end is the darkest one. If you're looking for something dramatic or you have a darker skin tone, this will work for you. And the shades from left to right, top to bottom: Levitation, Lyric, Lucid, Subconscious, Shadow Play, and Sombre. I know there have been a lot of reviews of this palette already because it's been out for a while, but I'm just going to kind of jump in and get started with mine. So I will do finger swatches of all these, and then I will do brush swatches on my arm as well. So let's see, the first one, it's pretty pigmented, but it's not too crazy. I'll just do all three at once. And this middle one, you can see how much yellower it is compared to this one. And then the third one is kind of a nice orange tone highlight. It's not so much orange, but just if you need warmth added back into your face, that's a good one. And then that taupe that I was talking about here. And you can kind of see just how cool toned it is, even in comparison to my skin, which is cool toned. Middle one, that kind of cocoa brown color. And then the third one, the darkest one, you can see there. And none of these have any kind of shimmer at all, which is great because to me, a highlight with a shimmer isn't really a highlight, it's just a shimmer. The shimmer kind of draws too much attention, I think, and it doesn't look at all natural in my opinion. But that's up to you. You can obviously do whatever you want. I'm not in charge of how you wear your highlight or your contour. That's just my personal preference. And also for me, the difference between a contour shade and a bronzer is the shimmer. If it's a bronzer and it has shimmer, totally fine. If it's a contour shade and it has shimmer, to me that's not right, because the contour is supposed to be mimicking the natural shadows in your face, and shadows don't have shimmer. And the very purpose of shimmer is to reflect back light, and when you're contouring, you're trying to draw in light and make that area appear smaller. Off on my tangent. So I'm going to go ahead and do a brush swatch of the highlights. Oh, you really cannot see that at all. And I'm going to do this on the darker part of my arm just because you can't see it at all on the other part. I'm too translucent. And I didn't put any primer on here or anything. This is just kind of going for it. You can kind of see them, but not really. Honestly, these are super light. There we go. There's a slight difference in tone, but it's not really anything, in my opinion, to write home about. So I've just done the right side of my face, contour and highlight. I'm going to turn so you can see it in different lights. And then just for comparison's sake, you can see the left side of my face. Honestly, this palette, I would call it take it or leave it type of thing. Since I already have it, I'll probably try and make it work. But I think the powder contour doesn't show up naturally. I just spent a lot of time blending it and trying to make sure that it was looking natural and not too harsh of a line, because I don't like that. The only place where I feel like it did make a nice difference was on my nose, and that was me using my Eco Tools, I believe it says Airbrush Concealer brush, but I just use it for contour because that's what works for me. And for blending, I used my Co-Cosmetics 114, and I'll link that down below so you guys can look at that if you're interested. These are my go-to brushes for contouring and shadowing, and then for the highlighting I just used a little fan brush to do that along the bridge of my nose, and then I just used this brush again to sweep up above the contour and in between. I did highlight, blush here, which I had done previously, and then contour on my cheek. I don't like a harsh contour line, but if that's your thing, this palette will be just fine. Like for example, if I were to use this darker color down here, the darkest one, with super light product, and I just tapped it off, I mean, you can really see how that sculpted it out. But for me, that's not what I prefer. If I was going to actually wear this, I would continue blending it out and probably layer it again with one of these other lighter contours. But that's not what I usually do on a daily basis. And I think for my skin, because it's drier, I actually like to stick with a cream contour. But if you have oily skin and you're going to do the contour anyways, you might as well get the powder contour. And this is pretty nice for that. I'm not gonna say don't go out and buy it, but I don't love it either. The highlights are okay. They're not exactly what I'm looking for. I can't really tell the difference on either side, and even taking a brush full of the lighter one, the one on the left that was more for my skin tone, and going in here, to me that doesn't really show up at all. Maybe it's my lighting, but I don't notice that in here hardly at all. I can't tell the difference. So overall, I think I would give this palette a 7 out of 10. It's not the greatest contour product I've ever used, but for what it is, which is a powder highlight and contour combo, it is nice. This was around 50 bucks. I'll put the correct price, I'll link to it down below so you guys can look at it. But for the price that it was, I would not repurchase this again. It doesn't have any glaring issues, but the extreme lightness of the highlighters, which I know sounds contradictory because they are meant to be light, but for me, I just can't see them at all. Like when I was just trying to take a picture of these swatches, I could not get a good enough picture to show me what they looked like even on my skin. So the highlights I would definitely take a pass on. If she sold the contours as a single, I would probably get Subconscious again, because I like that one just for the nose contour. That showed up really nicely, I think. But overall, this isn't something that I'm totally in love with, and I will let you guys draw your own conclusions from that. And just based on this little quick review, I'm not like doing anything in depth. The textures seem okay, but except for this darkest one, Sombre, that was super chunky. When I was doing the arm swatches, I was taking just a tiny little bit of it and it was coming up totally chunky on my skin, so I would steer away from that one. It applied okay on my cheek, but when I was doing those swatches, it was not a good texture, so it was a little somehow chunky and powdery at the same time. So that's my overall review on the Kat Von D Shade and Light palette. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, or if you want any more information about this palette. Thanks for watching.